Welcome to the Zagzooks Happy Hour. We're talking No Man's Sky, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, Star Trek figures, and the weekend's box office top 5. My name is Todd Stoll, and I'm joined by 25-year veteran reporter covering pop culture, video games, and technology for the Washington Times, Joseph Zadkowski.
God, I feel old. Okay.
Is it that bad already?
No, it's
Man,
just me.
it's only the third one, and you already feel old.
Do I sound like I'm in another room, or we got that figured out now?
I think it's good. I think it's good.
But I was in the other room. But it's okay.
Well, it's okay. So let's talk weekend top 5. Suicide Squad, number 1 again. And the reason that that's so interesting is that number 2 again was Sausage Party. And those are movies that remained. The 3 movies that opened this weekend, War Dogs opened at number 3. That's the Jonah Hill movie. Followed by Kubo and the Tale of Two Strings.
What?
Which had a $60 million budget and only made 12. So maybe that one will break even. And then a movie that needed to not be remade, Ben-Hur 2016, which had a $100 million budget and opened wide at $11,300,000.
Am I just old? I like the first Ben-Hur.
No, I don't know. This was one of those movies, much like Ghostbusters, that I don't know why they remade it.
Am I just old? Because I like the first Ghostbusters.
I like the first Ghostbusters as well.
Did you hear, speaking of Suicide Squad, that Jared Leto is going to now method all over Blade Runner 2?
Well, yeah, I've heard that.
He's part of Blade Runner 2 now.
I wonder if Harrison Ford is going to tolerate that at all. Or whether he's just going to say no.
He's just Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine he's got to be all that interested in that.
Do we know what he's playing yet?
I don't know that they announced it. It's a major character, but I don't know that they've said. I think it's really interesting how ticked off he is that he felt sort of blindsided by the fact he was not in Suicide Squad that much.
Well, wouldn't you? If you shot a bunch of scenes and you didn't appear? Yeah,
so I wonder if the next Batman movie is going to have him as the central villain.
Oh, boy.
I mean, they've already done one Joker before. You kind of would think that they would want to go with somebody else, but...
Well, yeah. I mean, I like the Nicholson Joker.
Yeah.
And then you got to love Heath as the Joker.
Well, yeah. I mean, he won an Academy Award for it.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see because, I mean, rightfully so, he was cut, and I think he appears only for little bits and pieces of it. So
I've yet to see the movie. I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. But I've had so many mixed signals from people.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to like it.
No one seems to like it, but
yet... keeps making tons of money.
Well,
what does that mean?
$20 million for the weekend is not a great opening, especially considering it's the last weekend before a lot of schools open up. So that was
true.
A pretty weak weekend. But it had a $175 million budget. It's at $262. So... there probably won't be a sequel to it, but they will certainly move these characters into the bigger DC universe for sure.
Yep.
Which is interesting. But I'd Ben-Hur. I don't get it.
You're back to Ben.
I'm back to Ben. I really, there's an office pool going on. I picked $19 million for it to open with. So the fact it opened at 11.
You guys have so little to do there. You had an office pool on Ben-Hur.
We had Ben-Hur. I mean, I would have rather gone with War Dogs. I thought that was the better choice because it at least had some star appeal to it.
And that got pretty good reviews, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But again, that's a pretty small opening at under $15 million. I mean, I know that they'll adjust and it'll probably be closer to that, but still, that's pretty awful.
That's not good.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, I thought I would talk a little bit about the Lonely Island film, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, which is now available on digital download through iTunes and your other famous Amazon and Google Play resources. It does not come out on Blu-ray until September 13th, I believe, is the Tuesday that it comes out.
This is another film no one saw.
This is another film that no one saw, yet the reviews were in the high 90s on Rotten Tomatoes for a long time, and I think it settled out into the high 80s. It was financed by Judd Apatow's production company and written by the three guys from The Lonely Island. and had a really star-studded cast. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was a very fun movie. I particularly don't care for the whole Justin Bieber tween sort of documentary style experience, and I thought this was a great mockumentary to that, and it just did so well. It makes fun of TMZ. It makes fun of just how ridiculous these artists are, especially when they're being followed around by a camera crew. There's a lot of great cameos. Ringo Starr is in it, which is kind of hilarious that they got him. At one point Snoop Dogg shows up with his own camera crew, which is kind of funny. So now they're trying to run between camera crews because each person's got their own documentary going on. The extras, there's about I would say a good 45 minutes of deleted scenes and scenes that just were cut for time. Extended cuts. There practically every song in the movie has a full-blown music video associated with it. The gag reel is great. It's a great movie. It did not get the love I think it should have. I think it's probably hard because Andy Samberg was the leading man and doesn't have that household name, so anyone who has seen The Lonely Island on Saturday Night Live and sort of knows those skits gets it and understands it. And this was a great film by them. And actually, even though it wasn't financed by Lorne Michaels' production company, I think this is one of the better Saturday Night Live spin-off movies. Even though it's not truly The Lonely Island, but it is the guys that do it. So 2 big thumbs up for that one. I think it was great. I had no issues with it whatsoever. And otherwise, I think I would recommend going out and getting it. So on that note, I think we'll take a break. We'll come back. We're going to talk some Star Trek figures, discuss a little bit of No Man's Sky, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Of course, but wait, I'm not going to give a break. So Star Trek figures, I thought something, I just saw this on Box Office. We will get the Star Trek figures, but not Box Office figures. Right now, The Legend of Tarzan worldwide has made more money than Star Trek Beyond. How is that possible?
Wasn't Tarzan been out a lot longer?
No, I don't think so. What about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's up on Star Trek.
But isn't Star Trek Beyond now the second highest grossing Star Trek movie? I think it's ahead of...
It might be, but it's dying to some really weird movies. I didn't expect Legend of Tarzan to be making anywhere near that amount of money. It's almost at $350 million. So there's your Star Trek figures. Yeah. We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
Communities Digital News, built by the writers and editors that deliver the news 24 hours a day. Visit comdiginews.com. That's COMMDIGI news.com. And support the next evolution in news.
We're back. And we're looking at a really cool
Star Trek figure.
This one blows me away, actually. This is pretty awesome.
So a company called Mezco Toys, who has been around a while. I've seen them at Toy Fair numerous times. Probably best known in my household for action figures themed around Hellboy. If you remember Hellboy, I really loved that comic book, and they did some really great figures, 6-7 inch figures. So they've come up with it's a sort of new concept. It's a cloth costume doll, and it's a line called the 112 Collective doll. And basically what we're talking about here is a 6.5 inch tall figure. It's got ridiculous facial head sculpting, super detailed costuming, accessories, and it's got 30 points of articulation. But what's really, lots of companies now, like Hot Toys, for example, come out with 12-inch line figures, and they're super detailed, and they're around $150 to get something like that. So Mezco shrank it down a little bit. Same quality, one could argue in certain aspects better quality, for around $70. So let's get to the point. The point is they put out lines of pop culture figures themed around Batman and Superman, and they're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Star Trek with, of course, one of the best known figures, one of the 50 greatest characters in the history of television, Mr. Spock. And I got to tell you, it's pretty cool looking. I mean, what were your thoughts as I walked in and handed the box to you?
I mean, the detail is great. It looks,
Right.
I mean, the facial mold alone looks like Leonard Nimoy. I mean,
Right.
that's impressive. The detail of the hands and the fact that there's so many different hands to do that you can interchange. There's the mind meld hand. There's the Vulcan salute.
Yeah.
There's the
Live long and prosper.
and then there's the shoulder pinch to
Yeah.
take down your enemy. The accessories such as the tricorder and the communicator. I mean, this is all really cool stuff, and it's very, very well done. It's very realistic.
This is how idiotic. This is how amazing the tricorder is. It flips. I mean, why would you even waste the time to do that?
And the tricorder itself is probably what I would say 3 to 5 centimeters total.
Yeah, and it's got a really nice strap on it. All right, so specifically, there's a second head sculpt, first of all, which I thought was great, and it's got the eyebrows raised, right?
Which I had to ask you, what was the difference between the heads? It's very subtle.
Right. That's the Dr. McCoy popping off about something cold-blooded. So that's cool. 9 interchangeable hands, and Todd went over most of them. And there's one to hold the phaser, of course, and everything else. So tools that you get, right? You get the phaser, which looks just like the one from the TV series. The communicator that actually flips open. Once again, that's really tiny. I mean, I don't know if I can get to it. I can't pop it out of the box. Oh, there it is.
He hasn't left the room, I promise. He's still here.
I'm here. See it? What's the size on that?
That's easily about 2 centimeters tops.
2 centimeters. So that's 2 centimeters.
Then the moral of the story is if you take this out of the box, keep it away from a vacuum cleaner because these are very small pieces.
That's right.
Or a cat that likes to play with small things because
You'll never see them again.
You'll never see them again. But the detail on them, the painting, just the overall mold is very well done. I mean, it's for a 7-inch figure at the price point, you don't really see a lot of that. I've seen some pretty bad face molds of Spock, and especially you're seeing a lot of stuff come out because of the 50th. This is probably one of the cleaner ones I think I've seen.
Absolutely, right? But the clothing, too, is worth a mention because stitched cloth garb, robin's egg blue long sleeve shirt, gold and black communication insignia, gold metallic sleeve bands, black neck top, black pants puffed at the cuff line. Remember those? Fall leather black boots. You also get a pleather belt you can put around Spock so he can hold his communicator and his phaser. That's pretty amazing in itself. But the company that I think works on and builds these figures also did a variation. Company's name, it's an online retailer, Vegas.dolls. They have a limited version, and I don't even know if most of you are going to remember. The pilot episode actually featured a captain named Captain Pike, and this was where they introduced Spock to everybody. I mean, do you remember that episode?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that for a second?
The
Remember
episode
anything about it?
The episode itself?
Yeah.
I mean, eventually it leads to Pike being in a sort of semi-wheelchair where he can't speak anymore. And you're sort of introduced to Kirk.
But his head's like popping out of like a giant
It's
container, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
really weird.
It looks like his head is on a robot body. I mean, it's the best way
Right.
to describe it. The variation is very cool. One thing that I noticed right away was that the hairline is not this straight cut. It very much looks like Nimoy's hairline. Which is very interesting. It's just, you catch that right away more than anything, more than the clothing, the color, anything like that. It's the hair that really does it for you to start.
So it's the cage variation. You got a removable dark blue coat, a velour-like blue shirt, really, really nice and soft with the insignia, a gray gadget harness, metal buckles, black pants, shiny boots. You're going to get the phaser, which is, of course, from the episode, and you're going to get the communicator that looks like from the episode, translucent flip top, really nice. Now, the only thing that kind of hurts a little bit is they're going to kick you up the price to about $199. So I'm not sure if that's a choke point for someone unless you're a really big Spock fan.
Or a big Star Trek fan.
Right, and I'm sure you could get this price down at certain other retailers. I'm not going to guarantee that it's only $199 everywhere. What I really liked about both figures, very easy to pull the heads off and replace, very easy to move the hands back and forth. I've seen figures where you got a 12-inch figure and you're trying to pop the hand off and you're afraid that you're going to break the peg when you try to put it back in. Didn't have any problems like that. The best part about this, of course, is Mezco is going to continue this line, and the best part about this for Todd is they're going to be doing a Ghostbuster set of the original cast, and they're going to use that exact same methodology to create those characters, which is going to be something.
I'll be broke. What I really also found really interesting with this piece is the stand, which had matches the blue science officer coloring, has the what they're using as sort of the 50th anniversary symbol on the base itself. The base isn't just something boring that you might put something on and forget about. The base itself.
It's got a peg, so you can you can definitely plant the foot on it so he stays stable. You've got a display pole, translucent. They're throwing that in too. Once again, though, it's a $70 item. Now let's compare. If you go and buy a Marvel Legends character these days off of a Toys R Us shelf, or maybe one of the Black Label Hasbro Star Wars characters, you're starting to hit the $20 mark. And that's for a piece of plastic character, nowhere near the detail of this guy.
No, I think for the price, this is pretty on par, what I would consider. It's not, I wouldn't look at this and say, oh man, I spent $80 for this.
Yeah, what am I going to do now?
And be disappointed. This is something where they've done their homework. They've obviously done a lot of screen modeling and 3D rendering, and the final product, I think, is something, if you were to spend that, you'd feel like it was worth the money you spent.
They do have a Sulu out now, and I think in October or maybe sooner, Captain Kirk. And I got a feeling at some point they're going to give you a bridge. They're going to put a bridge out there, but I can't guarantee that. I'll keep you up to date if something like that happens in the near future.
Great. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, No Man's Sky.
Communities Digital News, built by the writers and editors that deliver the news 24 hours a day. Visit comdiginews.com. That's COMMDIGI news.com. And support the next evolution in news.
We're back. I'm being told that the most interesting stuff we say is never being recorded, so I figured we would go ahead and start this back up. And you're going to talk No Man's Sky, at least in a rough form, since I know you're still working on the article.
I've only spent about 20 hours on it. You need to spend at least a good 100 to 200 to really fully embrace it.
I was under the impression you needed to spend 5 million days of your life in order to actually complete the game.
Yes, because you can actually explore 18 quintillion planets. Quintillion. I think it's quintillion.
Is there a reason for making this in sort of an open-ended game?
Because they never did before. Because they could.
And somebody wanted to.
Right? So we're exploring, collecting, trading, fighting, surviving. I'm making this sound like it's not really an exciting game, but it is really kind of fun. It's from a first-person perspective, and you repair your spaceship, and you go to different planets, and they're all procedurally generated, which means I think that the developers give the giant computer mainframes that are running algorithms a little bit of information, and they create the life forms and the terraforms on the planet, which is really cool when you think about it. And you'll find all these really neat ecosystems that you visit. Obviously, they're going to get kind of redundant after the 10th, 15th planet because you kind of run out of ecosystems.
But you're still into it.
But I'm still into it, but I like, tower defense games, so I can easily just keep exploring planets. using my mining tool to collect gold and aluminum and thorium and barium and beryllium and trading it and using it to build my suit up and all that kind of stuff.
Is there any multiplayer?
There's no multiplayer. You're alone in the galaxy, and the only people you talk to are they're alien species. Now, supposedly there's some sort of mysterious organization called Atlas that you're going to start running into more and more and discovering what they're about. Also, if you get to the center of the universe, something happens, but a lot of game critics aren't thrilled by what happens if you reach the center of the universe.
And how many hours do you have to put in to get to the center of the universe?
I think it's not going to be good. You're going to spend a lot of time away from your family, literally locked in a room. If you're a fan of Gene Roddenberry boldly going where no man has gone before, I think you're going to find this game really fascinating, because there's a lot of stuff going on, obviously, that they've put into it to make it look very pretty. If you're a fan of something that, and you're obsessed with objective-based games, Destiny is probably the better fit. There's a new upgrade to Destiny coming soon, which of course is a big multiplayer space universe game that never quite achieved its greatness, but still has a chance because there's a new one coming out again.
How would you rate the visuals?
Well, they're better than Minecraft, but they're not as great as like a game like Destiny or really. I was pretty taken with some of the. There was a planet I was on that made me feel like I was exploring an above ground coral reef. It was really pretty, and there's creatures you can feed there. There's creatures you can kill, but you don't want to do that. There's creatures that will attack you if you get too close to them. It's all very interesting, and I'm always a big complainer about multiplayer games because I hate talking to people in video games. Those obnoxious 10-year-olds who always seem to permeate games. So yeah, for this game, for me, this would be like the best game on the planet because I'm alone and I'm just doing what I want in hour increments at a time, and I'm doing a lot of exploring.
Can you die?
You can die.
And
here's what happens if you die. You get sent back to like your last save point, but you lose all your resources that you had collected at the time.
Oh.
So you have to go back and find your grave and get your resources back.
That's pretty.
Told. I haven't died yet.
That's pretty rough. So
It
yeah,
is pretty
so
rough.
you primarily stay away from the animals.
I stay away from the animals unless I'm going to feed them, and I make sure every planet has its own hazards. It could be toxic rain, could be radiation, could be anything, and you have to keep feeding your suit to make sure make sure your health bar stays up and the suit stays intact. So that's kind of a challenge in the game. And I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad game, does it?
No.
It's just not Call of Duty. You know what I mean? There's not things being blown up and giant alien races attacking you every 5 minutes.
Right.
It's more of a at peace with the world, at peace with your universe kind of a game where you're trying to discover and learn parts of the galaxy.
Would this have been a better game if it was on, say, iOS on your phone?
That's a good question. I don't know if they could have pushed that many pixels and that kind of technology.
But it does seem a little bit more like a game that you would just sit and stare at your phone all day.
That's correct.
Rather than sitting on a console.
That's correct. It could easily have been a watered-down temple run,
Right.
planet run,
Right.
where you're going to different places.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Now the key to the game is can the developers at Hello Games actually come up with any downloadable packs or upgrades to make it even better in the future? And there's no reason they couldn't. There's no reason they couldn't create packs that allow you to build colonies or build your own ship. Right now, if you want a new ship, you basically have to buy it from some trader who's selling or getting rid of his ship.
Or even, using wormholes, if there's anything
they
like that.
haven't explored that stuff yet. At some point, you can build your own hyperdrive. I've actually got to that point. It's pretty cool. The dog fights aren't very good. I mean, as you're visiting planets, you have to blow up asteroids to get in there, or you're going to get destroyed. Lots of great stuff there. And frankly, if they made it even more science-based, I think I would even be more excited by it, because then it starts verging on like a NASA experience or something like that, you know?
So it sort of seems like for a first iteration, it's probably not bad. And if they come out with upgrades to it, you know, they can only improve.
Yeah,
they've got a good basis for it.
I'm not sure it's a $59, $60 game, though. I think it's a game that could have been released cheaper and upgraded.
Or in-game purchase.
In-game purchases,
yeah,
as they say.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
You know, it's all good, right?
I'll let you know in 20 more hours.
Sounds good. So check back to the Washington Times for the full review.
Yeah, and I'll probably come back and talk about it in a week or so.
Sounds good. All right, so we're going to end the show with a new segment. We're going to talk about what's coming out on Blu-ray and what's hitting the theaters this coming week. Joe, you've got Blu-ray.
So the Blu-ray list is pretty amazing. We've got The Walking Dead, the complete 6th season, and I think that season was great.
It's amazing how they're already up to season 7.
And it was a great season.
It was a great season.
For the most part.
And I hope that the beginning of season 7 is as good as the end of season 6.
Ash vs. Evil Dead, the complete first season, which I don't know if you know anything about.
I mean, I know The Evil Dead. I did not watch Ash vs. Evil Dead.
It was great.
Okay.
So definitely, these are both from Anchor Bay Entertainment, and they're definitely worth it. We've got The Nice Guys, which you talked about last week.
I'm still a fan. I think get out there and get that Blu-ray. It was a good movie.
The remake of Roots, which I'm going to find out very quickly was totally unnecessary. We'll see.
Oh, wait, kind of like Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
Kind of like Ghostbusters 2016?
Yeah, same idea. Clown, which is a horror film from Anchor Bay Entertainment about a guy who puts on clown makeup and can't take it off. And he starts losing his mind. It sounds like a great movie.
That sounds like someone's real life.
No comment. And DC's Legend of Tomorrow, the complete first season. That is the show on the CW network that pulls in a bunch of heroes and villains, and it's trying to make a team show that's going to not be as good as Supergirl or The Flash.
So what's on your purchase list then of the stuff coming out?
Well, I'm definitely on board with Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I'm definitely on board with The Walking Dead. I'm definitely on board, now that you've brought it up multiple times, with The Nice Guys, and probably Clown's a rental.
Sounds
we'll
good.
See.
And opening in theaters, Don't Breathe, which is a horror film based upon some kids that are breaking into an old guy's house only to find out that he's trying to kill them. The interesting piece to that is that the guy is blind, and eventually he cuts the lights, and the bulk of the movie is in the dark. That opens wide.
Yeah.
We've got Hands of Stone, which is the boxing film with Usher and Robert De Niro. We have Mechanic Resurrection, which is the follow-up Jason Statham film, the sequel. And then we've got some other smaller films that are coming out. On a blind taste test of what's going to be number one at the box office, I'm going to pick Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I think we're going there again.
Yeah, I think that... I mean, I don't know. Don't Breathe, I suppose, could maybe knock it off because it's a horror film and people do like that. It's a little early for horror films, and it didn't particularly look that great in the trailers, but I guess we'll see. Mechanic will probably tank, would be my guess. And Hands of Stone, I think it's hard to say, but would not be surprised if Suicide Squad was still number one. So that's it. Anything else? Any parting words?
Yeah. When am I going to get my polka? We're getting close. We're in negotiations, aren't we?
We're in negotiations for it.
Okay, great.
I mean, we're not going to get Weird Al polka, for sure.
I'm not working on it. Frankie Yankovic is fine. Let's see where we get.
Is he still alive?
I don't know.
If he is, I'm sure his agent is probably hard of hearing.
I got to believe Who Stole the Kishka has got to be available, but we'll see.
Well, we can always only hope. So I am Todd Stoll.
I'm still Joe Zadkowski.
And